Hello everyone, and welcome to Mari and Recap Land, where I recap the latest main story updates in JP and sometimes events. I'm really sorry about the massive delay in this video and the update. It came out at a time where I had to be out of town and unable to work on this. That being said, I do think it was a bit of a blessing that I've had a few days because I've had a lot of thoughts about this update, and it's better that I've been able to sit with it for a few days and think about it. I'll go ahead and say I have massive issues with this update, but we'll talk about that at the end. For now, let's recap Chapter 8, parts 41 through 62. So I'm not gonna lie, the first two parts are honestly just recaps. It's all information we already know. One of the announcers recaps the Relic Labyrinth rules, which, yeah, I guess it makes sense since that was explained towards the beginning of Book 8. But then we cut to Kaleem and some other Scarabia students, including our favorite, Scarabia Student B, and they're cheering on Jamil and another Scarabia student named Lucian. But then Kaleem cheers on Minaj and the others are like, And then we get another recap of Minaj's backstory, and it's like, we did just get this like 5 seconds ago, but okay. We do get a funny callback to Ghost Marriage with the Scarabia students asking if Minaj has like a big dog or a white horse since he's such a perfect prince. He actually has a pet tiger instead. Anyways, our only new information is that Minaj, despite having looks, brains, wealth, and everything, doesn't seem happy. We cut to Jade and Floyd. Floyd is really annoyed with how loud the Scarabia students are, especially since the players for this round can't hear them at all. They also say phones aren't allowed, and this is important for later. Jade recaps everything we learned about Rielle from the last patch, and again, it's like, we did just get this information 5 seconds ago. I don't know if we need it to be repeated so soon. Floyd says he hates Rielle and he sounds annoying regarding the running away thing, and Jade is like, I know, I hate it when people do things on a whim and never consider others around him. And it just goes straight over Floyd's head. He says he doesn't remember Rielle at first, but after seeing him, he does remember, and Rielle's special nickname is Mahi Mahi because of the green outfit and gold trinkets. The characters leave Recap Land, and we catch up with Silver and Malleus. Silver is wondering where Sebek is, and Malleus tells him that he told Sebek to spend time with you and his friends, granted there's not an emergency or anything. The two reflect on how Sebek has changed. He used to use every break to go to Malleus's classes to check on him, but he doesn't do that anymore. Silver changes the subject and asks Malleus why he chose Lilia for Relic Labyrinth. Yeah, I guess the House Wardens pick teams for the games? Yeah, I don't know why they would do that, but okay. Silver points out that Lilia lost some game controllers recently and had to buy new ones because they were just gone, and that Lilia doesn't have a lot of magical power right now with everything that's happened in Book 7. Malleus, we love him, but he's super unhelpful and just tells Silver to watch and then he'll understand why Lilia was chosen. Malleus, I love you, honey, but that is so unhelpful. Over in some other place in the stadium, some Savannah Class students are confused why Ruggy is in Relic Labyrinth and not Spell Drive. They point out Ruggy is an incredible spell drive player and he's the disc thief, so not having him on the team is insane. Leona cuts in and says he moved Ruggy to the Relic Labyrinth team because he's the disc thief and his skills in spell drive are gonna be better in Relic Labyrinth. I don't remember if it was Leona or someone else who brought this up, I didn't make a note about it, but it's brought up that Minhaj is also a super good spell drive player and he's not there. The other Savannah Class students remember Minhaj winning a game for RSA though, and get mad about it, even though this happened ages ago, and Leona has to tell them to shut up and get over it. They all cheer on Ruggy after getting over it, or at least shutting up about it. We finally get to the Ancient Ruins and the Relic Labyrinth team. It's Ruggy, Jamil, Azul, Lilia, and 3 NPCs. Lucian, a junior Scarabia student, Claire, a Pomfiore sophomore, and Talus, who as far as I can remember, they don't specify what dorm he's from. I don't remember if they said. Anyways, the guys are huddling over the map. It's an inverted pyramid, so the room at the bottom with the pedestals and where they're starting is super small, and then the top floor is massive. They have no idea where they are, but Lucian thinks it might be festival grounds from the Age of Gods. They're all struggling to make sense of the building, and Lilia says it'll be hard to navigate without a phone or an app or something. Talus reminds them that they can't have phones, which, yeah, no shit, that was brought up earlier. They take notes of where stone clusters are, and Ruggy notes that they should be cautious in those areas because there's probably loads of traps. They also note that their starting point is small and so a skirmish may be inevitable. Claire says he'll never say no to a duel and he'll fight valiantly. Azul tells him to calm down. Their game strategy is to gather info on the traps and their surroundings, then collect the stones and then attack if they have to. Talus, Claire, Lucian, Ruggy, and Jamil will take the top floor first, with Azul and Lilia taking the middle floor. The game is 90 minutes long, so they'll reconvene after 30 minutes to trade information. Ruggie and Lilia again complain about not having phones and talk about how neither of them had phones prior to NRC, but after getting one, becoming attached to it. Couldn't be me, I still lose my phone or let it die for days on end constantly. Talus starts rambling, thinking about the MVP role for the competition and seeing if the rumors are true, prompting Lilia to remember something that happened a few days prior. Train and Crowley had called Lilia and Malleus into the head mage's office to talk about the rumor regarding the Princess Glow. Train hadn't wanted the information to get out, but it turns out some portraits on the wall overheard and spread the rumor everywhere. Train apologizes to them and says he didn't want to tell them until he had solid proof, and Crowley is like, oh, it's so sad unverified info got out, but everyone's so excited for the competition now. Like Talus touched on, the MVP of the winning team is the person who's like performed the best, and they're the one to like receive the cup and hold it first for like the team and everything. And now everyone wants to have that role since, you know, the cup might have a wish piece in it. Although Crowley says that nobody knows if a miracle will happen if someone actually touches it, so what's the point of really wanting that? But anyways, it's a weird statement. Train and Crowley say the Princess Glow should have been passed down to Malleus, and Train offers to help Malleus request like an official investigation to see if, you know, the rumors are true or not. And if the Princess Glow really is in the cup, it should be returned to Malleus, but he declines. This section is honestly very frustrating and infuriating to me, and we will talk about it more at the end of the video, but for now we just need to get through this. Malleus declines to start an investigation because apparently the Princess Glow didn't actually belong to the Nocturnal Fae. His mom was just the last person to have it. Sometime beyond 1500 years ago, Nocturnal Fae originally lived somewhere far north of Briar Valley's continent. They moved south into what eventually became Briarland, where Diurnal Fae were already living. The two types of Fae try to live together, but Lilia says their differences were too great and it caused massive rifts between the two. So now they're having land disputes over land that would eventually become Briarland. It's not said why the Nocturnal Fae left their original homeland, but Malleus later says that his ancestors fought on the front lines and led the charge to these battles since they no longer had a homeland, so I don't know. Anyway, the Princess Glow and also Castle Wildrose, where Malinor lived, belonged to the Diurnal Fae originally. 1500 years ago during a battle, Militia took the Princess Glow from the Diurnal Fae and gave it to Malinor when she was born. I don't know if she claimed Wildrose at this time too, but it somehow came to the Nocturnal Fae. So when humans showed up to this continent, the Diurnal Fae sided with them, and then humans joined in the mix, and it's messy. It is so fucking messy, and I have several thoughts about this. Train is shocked to hear all this since it's not in history books. Lilia points out that Fae don't really need history books. Fae have super long lives, so it makes more sense for them to just ask family members about historical events rather than read about it in a book, since those family members were probably there or connected somehow. They don't need records, and it's more of a recent thing. Lilia guesses that because the Diurnal Fae and humans were allies, they probably told the humans about the Princess Glow, and that's how they found out about it. But also, there's a lot of rumors about the Princess Glow even among Fae, and what I told you might not actually be the truth. It may have always been with the Diurnal Fae, but there's also rumors that a Nocturnal Fae was the one who mined it, or that the Nocturnal Fae had it first and then it was stolen, so Militia was really just taking it back. There's loads of possibilities. Lilia says there's really no way to verify ancient history, and there's no way to know if what's been written in history books or told via oral histories is actually true. Malleus says his mother only had the stone for 300 years, and given its probably colorful history, it would be unethical for him to ask for it back. His mother was just the last person to have it, and now it's someone else's turn. And if they really want to investigate it, then they just have to win the cup for themselves. Crowley is furious about Malleus's refusal to start an investigation, but is trying to seem calm, and genuinely my stomach was so queasy and achy seeing Crowley's reaction. It also could have been the 2 large caramel mocha cold brew shakes I had downed, but still, you can just tell how angry he is. Crowley then goes on to say, though, that they'll win the cup and return it to its rightful owners, Briar Valley. Malleus is like, what? But Crowley insists that it belongs to Malleus because of what's written in the history books, and pushes Malleus to try for MVP so he can be the first person to hold the cup, and again, nauseous. The vibes are beyond rotten. The flashback ends and we're back at the competition. The game starts, but RSA has a group huddle first. They talk about something, I don't know, I kind of zoned out and realized with some of Rielle's expressions make him look like he's on bath salts or something. His eyes are way too big. Anyway, NRC snarks about the group huddle and they head out. Rielle hands some of the trinkets on his uniform to others and casts his unique Maho, Path to Your World, and sings. I don't know if the singing is required for the UM or if he's just doing that. Azul and Lilia find themselves in Silent Hill with how much fog is in the second floor. They can't see anything, they can't really hear each other, it's not regular fog, it's enchanted fog, and sadly, doesn't come with a hot fox man. They find a room with loads of stones on this pedestal, but there's something inscribed on it. Azul says to leave it alone, but Lilia decides to go ahead and touch it. It activates some golems, which were things designed to keep people out of, like, kings' tombs and stuff. Lilia tries to put the stones back to see if that'll make them reset or anything, but it doesn't do anything, so now they have to deal with the golems. And we as players get a new minigame. It's a pathfinding sort of thing, and honestly a little nerve-wracking, not gonna lie. They do manage to get away though, and Azul is not pleased. We cut to Rielle, and that boy is just having the time of his life. He's running around looking at everything while Oliver, a junior, is dying trying to keep up with him. As the two chat, Rielle talks about his friends back home, saying Oliver reminds him of one that sounds very flounder-coded. The other, Horatio, seems to be a twisted Sebastian and rats on Rielle all the time. Rielle kind of gets mad about it and then runs off again. Ruggie and Jamil have managed to get a few stones, but as they enter a room, Ruggie falls into a pit and drops some. The floor has some illusion magic on it to make it seem like it's solid, but there's actually pits hidden in it. Jamil makes it rain literally, with the water changing the color of the real floor and showing them a safe path. They get to another room with a trap that they speculate on, but nearby, Minhaj, Sylvie, and Winter have accidentally sprung a trap and are running from some golems. Sylvie and Winter tell Minhaj to run off without them, but in their running in this whole mess, Winter drops a bottle opener, the trinket Rielle gave him. When the dust clears and RSA is gone, Ruggie and Jamil go over, and Ruggie immediately picks up the bottle opener. As Ruggie is examining it, he hears a voice coming from it. We switch to RSA. Minhaj is irritated that Winter dropped the bottle opener, but he knows there's nothing he can do about it. He and Tim check out a room and chat. Tim is worried about the culture club students and their team, and if they're up for all the battles and all this running and stuff, to which Minhaj replies that he's a culture kid. This bitch is a theater kid. He even talks about how he played the role of a princess for the last musical they did. Tim is shocked not just that Minhaj is in the drama club, but also he didn't recognize Minhaj and just assumed a female student was playing the role. To which Minhaj is like, what are you talking about? RSA is an all-boys school. And Yana, I am sick and tired of all these one-sex mage schools. Give us some co-ed schools or an all-girls school, Jesus. As they're walking back down a staircase to the bottom level, they realize the staircase is never ending. Minhaj casts his unique Maho, Crystallized Clear, to see what's actually going on. It helps him see what and how things are enchanted, but it's not perfect, and him being able to undo the magic is another skill entirely. He says that most of his information and education is just from books, and he lacks real-world experience, which makes things harder for him. We're now back with Lilia and Azul. They're all reconvening, and while they think they've made a good start with the stones, NRC only has 58 versus RSA having 182, setting a new competition record. During their group huddle, Ruggie and Jamil tell the others that RSA has honestly had kind of an unfair advantage during this whole game. Although you can't bring phones or any communication devices into the arena, Rielle and RSA are getting around this with Rielle's unique Maho, which enchants items and allows people to communicate through them. This is unfortunately totally fine apparently because Rielle cast a spell during the game and not before, but like, this is such a hyper-specific unique Maho, and I think that Rielle should have gotten banned from doing Relic Labyrinth in the first place because of it, but anyway. This is obviously a massive upper hand since RSA can inform each other of things ASAP and not have to meet up constantly to exchange information. The guys know the only way to turn things around and give themselves a chance of victory is to somehow neutralize Rielle's spell. With that, Azul and Lilia plan to go after Rielle. Rielle and Oliver are exploring another room full of trinkets when Rielle inevitably picks one up and the room starts to flood, and not only that, shark golems go after them. Rielle and Oliver struggle to swim out of the room. Rielle has to throw some of the stones away at the sharks in self-defense. They eventually get out of the room, but obviously have lost some stones. Minhaj finds them since he was worried that they weren't picking up, and he's pissed Rielle threw away some of the stones and they start fighting. Oliver defends Rielle though and explains they didn't have much choice, but it doesn't really do much. Minhaj and Rielle continue to fight, and Minhaj points out that Rielle is a potential target should NRC find out about his unique Maho. Rielle snaps and says obviously he knows that. Minhaj says Rielle's like a child, and this sets him off. Like, he's pissed now, and the NPCs are trying to break up the fight, but Rielle storms off after telling Minhaj that he should be treated like an equal and that he's not a child. Minhaj realizes Rielle was right and that he shouldn't have yelled at him like that, saying he was acting like his dad and it wasn't okay for him to be like that. Although Oliver does go to try and find Rielle, Minhaj decides to let Rielle be and just let him cool off. Rielle's trying to find that room that flooded in order to get the stones back. Earlier, they'd found a room with these weird-looking sea anemones that grab you and keep you in place. They find that room again, but before they can leave, the floor freezes over and Oliver gets trapped by some of the anemones. Azul and Lilia have found Rielle, and soon he gets tangled with the anemones as well. He tries to call Minhaj for help, but Lilia knocks his trinket away from him. He and Azul tell Rielle they're aware of his unique Maho and that they already got the stones in that room. They go to leave and Rielle starts crying, feeling at fault for getting him and Oliver trapped. Lilia comes back though, claiming it's too hard to see a kid crying and upset, and telling Azul that maybe they should help them. Azul talks about how the Sea Witch was so benevolent all the time, so he should follow her example, but Rielle already knows this isn't leading anywhere good. He's very clearly hesitant, but Azul points out that this is Oliver's last competition as a junior, and Rielle has family and friends back home watching, and how sad it would be for everyone if their part in the game ended prematurely. Azul offers to free them if Rielle gives him his voice, his unique Maho. Rielle isn't so sure about it, but Lilia points out he'll still be able to use other magic, and if he doesn't accept the deal, he and Oliver are done. Rielle isn't happy, but he goes ahead and signs a contract with Azul. Azul then does an evil laugh, and I can imagine everyone in the stadium watching this go down is cringing and just like, that seems like odd behavior for a teenager. We end the update with Azul's evil laughter. I've alluded to it multiple times, but I have massive issues with this update. I think it's an example of some of Twist's best writing, and also its worst. To start with the positives, the character writing in this update was phenomenal. We've gotten great looks not just into Minhaj and Rielle, but also the NPCs, into Malleus, into Lilia, into Crowley and Train. Overall, this update had exceptionally good character writing, and the plot itself isn't bad, while I do have some gripes about the recaps. The pacing was fine and the sequence of events was fine. The foreshadowing about the phones was a little heavy-handed, but it wasn't the worst I've seen. My biggest issue with this update is the lore we were given, which I know is insane to hear coming from me as someone who loves lore not just in Twist, but any video game. I love doing lore deep dives. That being said, I don't really even know where to begin when it comes breaking down how much I hate the lore revelations we were given in this update. I guess my first point is that we should have been given a lot of this lore far earlier. We spent so much time in Chapter 7 with the Briarland army, and not once was it brought up that Nocturnal Fae weren't originally from this continent. It was not brought up a single time that Nocturnal Fae had to fight for this land and to establish Briarland. You know, the thing they were defending the entire war. Lilia says it's easier to ask family about past historical events. You're telling me that not one person in that army had connections or knowledge of the previous conflicts mentioned, and that they're having to fight again over this land. Not one single mention. I understand it would have been a little harder to bring up the Princess Glow's origins, but couldn't you have had a line where Malinor says like, "Oh, Malleus, I wish I could have given you this stone like my mother gifted me when I was born, but Mama needs it a little while longer," or something. That would have set up the expectation of inheritance, and I think would have made the reveal it wasn't a family heirloom a bigger shock. And that's my second issue. It's not just that I think this lore should have been brought up or hinted to in Chapter 7, but that it would have been so easy to do and would have fixed a lot of things about Chapter 7. While it's not as needed, it also would have been easy to touch on the Draconia's battle prowess going back generations, and that presumably being part of why they're so revered by Nocturnal Fae. And like I said, I think mentioning Malinor's Mage Stone was gifted to her by her mother would have been a good tidbit to have. I think most of us operated under the assumption she got it when she started learning magic, and Malleus should have it not because it's a family heirloom, but because it's his mom's. Like, a dress of hers isn't exactly an heirloom past through generations, but it's hers and Malleus should still get it, right? You guys know what I mean? Like that. I think Twist should have set up this fake out, making people think the Princess Glow was a family heirloom going back generations, and this would have led to a better plot twist when Malleus reveals that it isn't. The twist is fine, don't get me wrong. I just think it would have had a little more oomph with the heirloom angle, and it would have been easy to do. We spend so much time with soldiers and have little one-off moments in the battle maps. Having it implied this is not the first time Nocturnal Fae have fought over this land, especially since they have nowhere else to go apparently, would have been very easy to slip in. Not to mention, I think this would have changed a lot of people's perceptions on the war in general. I think having that information is insanely important, and it's ridiculous that we got it just now. I think this info would have made more people at least neutral-ish to the Silver Owls, but also it makes the ending of Chapter 7 make way more sense with the spirits of the Briarland soldiers and Silver Owls making peace with each other. While I do think some criticisms and aspects of Chapter 7 remain unchanged, like me personally considering Silver's bio dad a massive coward and he's still in the wrong for not reaching out to Malinar for help, this information massively recontextualizes almost everything from the Briarland arc in Chapter 7. And this is where my third and final complaint comes in. Giving us this information now feels like backpedaling. It's not just that this information should have been brought up earlier. It's not just that this would have been super easy to bring up earlier. It's that with the importance of this information and the time that they gave it, makes it feel like the only reason it exists is because Yana and her team saw the massive backlash with a sizable portion of the fanbase, and now they're scrambling to try and make things better. This is what that feels like, and I have a massive fucking problem with that. Yana has gone on record saying she and the rest of her team were nervous about the reception of the ending of Chapter 7, and the only reason Chapter 7.5 happened was because they saw positivity. I don't know if the positivity is in the room with us right now, but her statement shows that they knew it could go sideways, and it did. The majority of people I know or have heard from are either, mixed about the ending or hated the ending of Book 7, especially when it came to the Briarland stuff. And I'm going to be honest, I think had she included some of that information from Book 8 and introduced it in 7, more people would have been fine with the ending. Also, this isn't even touching on that the Nocturnal Fae coming to the continent makes the timeline a little wonky, because in the Japanese version of Twist, they explicitly state at least once, but I think it's twice, that the Thorn Fairy is from Briar Valley. So when did her stuff happen? It had to be over at least 2,000 years ago before Militia was born and fighting and shit, but it had to be after Nocturnal Fae arrived to the continent. She's Fae and lived a long while, so when was she alive? It makes the timeline feel wonky, and in turn that makes these new pieces of information feel like they were just made last Tuesday. You feel? I don't know if Yana and her team had this information the entire time and just didn't disclose it, or if they felt panicked and like they had to do something. And that's not good because it feels like they did just panic and threw this in here to try and make things better. The whole thing feels like an absolute mess to me, and it really, really frustrates me. And it makes me even more frustrated this happened during an update that otherwise was really good. And I'm going to stop myself there before I get any more irritated. Thank you to everyone who stuck around to the very end of this video, and a very special thank you to my ladyfingers in waiting, whose support allows me to continue to do this, and also had to sit through me bitching about this update a few days ago in the Discord. A massive thank you and telepathic snacky treat to Meechgal2189, Visa, Omimi, Orion, Dorcas, Crabjail, Lady Lunarine, Farafo, Yosa the Kiseki, Yungumo, and Richter32. Thank you guys and I'm Kiryu. If you'd like to become a ladyfinger in waiting yourself, I have channel memberships here on YouTube, and I also have subs open on Twitch if that's more of your thing. Hopefully, I won't have to delay the next update video like this one. If you want to get notified when that drops, subscribe and then pray that YouTube decides to be a functional website when it comes to notifications. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video whenever that is, and yeah, bye-bye!